Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we're in a sad state today because it's Paulette Perhach's last episode. Well, Paulette's definitely simplifying her life by not hanging out with us anymore, so let's talk about just that. How do you downsize, live on less, and actually have more? Well, first, Mom had us bring in an expert in this topic, the woman behind the Simplify and Enjoy podcast, Elle Martinez. And also say hello to a guy who's lived alone in the wilderness, giving up everything else. It's Grizzly Adams. Nah, once his show got canceled back in '78, he disappeared, so we just found Len Penzo wandering the streets. But that's not all. Halfway through the show, I'll share my super huge, amazingly gargantuan trivia question. And now, a guy who's streamlined his life to just 3 podcasts per week, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Hey there, Stackers, and happy Friday. Isn't it wild, Doug? We had to work 4 full days in a row this week, like Monday off, but we had to work then Tuesday through Friday. It is so wild how long the week goes after Memorial Day. Like, and then you're like, oh, next week I got to work another day. But good news, we're going to bring you safely into the weekend with this fine group of people talking about cutting back and enjoying more. Is that a thing? Can we actually do it? Well, let's say hello to the people who are going to join us for this podcast. First of all, the woman going bye-bye. Don't leave. You can't leave us. Say it ain't so, Paulette.
You got another PP coming back.
We do have
Paula with her wisdom and knowledge.
Paula, just in case you're listening, she was using air quotes.
Like, whatever. Yeah, duh. But you're not doing anything, Paulette. You're just writing, stuff for the New York Times on ChatGPT and finance. And it's tough when you're not hanging out with us. Yeah.
It is tough. It's not, I'm like really trying to work out, like, how do I keep up that funny bone? I did improv for the first time last night. So I want to make sure that I keep doing silly stuff. And I felt like, oh, is this a Michael Scott thing? But then it was really fun and funny and so like physical in this world where we're all on computers. So I really enjoyed it and I had a lot of fun and I laughed a lot.
I took a short improv class and the key to improv apparently is and. Don't say but, say and. And yes, just add on to the next thing. Yes,
never say no.
Yes. The guy who never says no, thank goodness for us, because he's sticking around, hopefully. We haven't gotten his 2 weeks' notice yet. Mr. Len Penzo's here. How are you? Did you watch Grizzly Adams when you were a kid?
I did, but, I got to say, Paula just reminded me, I've got another PP coming back. So if you guys can, move on without me here for a second, and then I will...
See what you're going to miss out on, Paulette? All that PP humor. That's just, I feel so bad. I'm sure you do too. Yes.
You want me to turn in my notice now, Joe?
just wear the Depends so you can get through the full hour and not have to get up, Grandpa. And wondering why the hell she's back with us. Miss Simplify and Enjoy herself. Elle Martinez is here.
Hey, I'm really starting to think that Paulette has the right idea, but
I'm getting away. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No, I'm excited to be back and have some fun. It's good to have laughs.
Well, and before we dive into the laughs, let's talk a little serious. What's going on at Simplify and Enjoy? Because you and I used to chat all the time, and we haven't chatted in a little while. What's happening?
Yeah, I think you had like this small little book tour across the country, and you were busy with that.
I don't know what that's about.
I mean, who does that? But it's been going great. We've been having a lot of fun this season. The theme for this year is having a rich life, which kind of fits in with what we're talking about not just the numbers, but actually enjoying it. So we have our kids. We've been traveling now that it's hopefully COVID's over. We've been doing a lot more traveling as a family. So just got back from Florida and been enjoying it.
I thought you were saying we have our kids, so we've been traveling away from them as far as we can
later
get.
This year. We do have some couples trips planned too.
That's awesome. By the way, were you a fan of Grizzly Adams?
No.
You're way too young, aren't you?
I have to be honest, I don't even know.
She has no idea. Paula, do you have any idea who Grizzly Adams is?
No idea.
No clue. There we go, Doug. That's it.
Wow, we worked on that joke for minutes, too.
I know, for literally like 3.5 minutes, and half of our crew here doesn't get it. It's a good Wikipedia lookup, though, based on a true story. Was a good show. Anyway, we've got Elle here. We've got Len here. We got Paulette. We got Doug. We can talk about simplifying and enjoying more of our life. Here we go. Our piece today is from Success Magazine. And the question is how living with less can give you more. Paulette, let's start with you. Do you think that's really a thing? I mean, I know there's a lot of people who aren't, they look at these minimalists and they're like, no, I think more is more. Less isn't necessarily more. I think more equals more.
Well, you're always making a choice. And I just want to say I was obsessed with tiny houses for like 3 years. I have an extensive Pinterest board. It got to the point where like one time, like my boyfriend at the time caught me like looking at tiny houses again. And I was like, he's like, really again? I was like, yeah, I don't know why. Like I wanted to like minimize it like it was porn. And I was just like obsessed because I didn't know how to make it as a writer, So, I mean, I had lived in 150 square feet in Seattle for a year, and I did that, and it was fine because I was making a choice. I was writing my book that year, and there are things that you lose and there are things that you gain. So I think it's just all about choices.
There are people in this piece who talk about living, Paulette, in some of these really small places. And I'm wondering, I mean, because you didn't have room for more stuff, there had to have been some pieces of your life that were fantastic because of that.
Yeah, I mean, the cleaning was really great. It was so fast, like no big deal. It definitely did simplify. And like my place of living was not something that took up mental energy. I could not have done it with another person. And I'm so glad I wasn't there when the pandemic happened. I would have gone bananas.
Oh, yeah. Well, isn't that wild how a thing in one atmosphere can be, I mean, it can be good in one atmosphere, it could be so bad in another. Elle, you're all about simplify and enjoy. I mean, and I remember you making the brand switch. So you must be on board with the idea that less can be more.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if it's just me. It's probably not. But I am amazed at when we had moved to this house, how much crap we had. And I feel like 2/3 of it was for our kids, who at that time were only like 1 in 5. But it's amazing as parents, you have everything for them. And then even us, I admit we're so guilty. If you look in our basement, it's kind of like a museum of 80s computers. I have TV series on DVD that I refuse to give up. It's just, it's a mess. So, I mean, and we simplified significantly. But I feel like it's like Paulette says, it's really like a choice in finding that balance of what you're super excited about, and keep those. But if you aren't aware of that, it's very easy just to collect stuff and crap.
Len, they make a point in this piece of saying that clutter equals lack of focus. Like it's very difficult to focus when you've got clutter around. Have you found that true in your life?
For me, absolutely. I mean, clutter is disorganization to me. And I don't know how I can't get anything done when I'm disorganized. So decluttering is the first step towards getting organized, obviously. How that works. So, but that being said, I've had colleagues in the past who have had desks with things piled to the ceiling, and you'd walk in their office and you'd say, it looks like a hoarder's place, and the guy, they're very efficient. So I guess it's some people can operate in that kind of environment. I know I can't. And if I could just bring up real quick, my Aunt Millie had a real tiny house. Did I ever tell you about her?
No.
I mean, it was a small house. It was 100 and what was yours? Paulette, you were looking at, it was 150 square feet. My Aunt Millie's, it was 125 square foot house. And let me tell you, every time she dropped a Kleenex, she had wall-to-wall carpet. So it was really small. Is this thing on? Hello?
It took, that wind-up took forever. That just took...
Well, it was a small house. It was a small house. I remember the time she put a key in the door, and she stabbed everybody in the house.
I had a client when what were those little cars called, Doug? I mean, they still have them, like the not the Metro car, the little tiny like 2-seater that Chrysler was selling.
A 2-seater that Chrysler, a Prowler?
No, the little tiny car. I mean, it was a different brand, but I remember in Detroit. No. It was a little tiny car that was meant to be driven around cities. You still see them from time to time. The smart car, yeah.
Smart car.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a Chrysler executive who was a client of mine who bought one. And I remember it was in my parking lot of my office. It was parked next to just a, mid-sized Buick. And it was like a third of the size of the Buick. And I said to him when he came up to meet with me, I said, how do you like this thing? He goes, you'll never believe this about how spacious this is. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, I can get a bottle of water and a pencil in there along with me. Like it's huge. He did say, by the way, when the wind blew, like it was that made it difficult. Okay, now I'm completely derailing where I wanted to go. But I do want to ask this, because clutter's not just the things around you. Paulette, you and I have talked about our calendars. Part of the reason why you're not writing with us anymore is because we're going one way and the rest of your career is going a different way. Like writing our comedy stuff is not the stuff that you're focused on. Like really, the clutter can exist existentially as well.
Oh God, yeah, and that there was that talk at FinCon. I forget her name, but she was like simplicity scales, and that has honestly been just like haunting me because I do not have simplicity and I'm not scaling. So, but Neil Gaiman has this great quote about visualizing where you want to go as a mountain, and as you go along your career, there are some opportunities that'll take you closer to the mountain, and ones that he's like 10 years ago that would have been a great opportunity for me, but now that I'm like, in this place, that's not taking me closer to the mountain. And, I just have so many passion projects, and I just had to pick my passion projects and have some pay projects. So that's what I had to do.
Yeah, you have to cut stuff back. It's funny, though. Len, you were talking about clutter. Paulette, you and I just talking about clutter on your calendar. I saw an interview with Barbara Streisand, who is notorious with the amount of clutter that she has, or used to have anyway, in her life. And she talked about how these stacks of papers gave her inspiration. And there were things that she would look at them, and those things would inspire her, and it would get her creative mind flowing. Do you have, Elle, some things that you will not part with because it keeps the creative juices running? I'm a visual person, and I'm also analog in certain ways. Don't laugh, like the certain calendars. What was it? Austin Kleon. He has certain calendar that comes out, and he always has, just something brilliant. I love having that, and I rotate in my office. I will put that in front of me, in front of the screen. And those are things that it takes up a physical space. But for me, that is like a controlled clutter that allows me to kind of focus and gives me energy. But I kind of feel like Len, like if the whole office was cluttered, it would drive me crazy. I would not feel inspired. I'd feel overwhelmed. Well, Paulette, as a creative person, there's got to be things that you have to look at that inspire you. How do you find that middle ground? I think, and I used to have this like really cool collage behind my computer. And then, now it's like more bare bones for sure. But, one of the things I've done is I like to have on my computers, like when it goes to sleep, it'll do a slideshow. And so you can do like from a specific folder. So I did a folder of like happy memory photos to come up on my computer. And that's really nice. So I've been liking that. And that's something that's digital, but I definitely have like a hoarder tendency for sure. So I have to be really careful. But I moved to Florida with just what I could fit in my RAV4. Oh, that's cool. That's fantastic. Yeah. When Cheryl and I sold our house and sold all our stuff, like I thought I was going to miss all that stuff. And I don't miss hardly any of it. And it was really doing Peace Corps that taught me that. I mean, I was 26 and I was like, wow, that took 3 ads, one for my car, one for my house, and one for the garage sale. And then I pared everything down to like 8 of those big tubs.
that my mom stored for me. And I was like, damn, it is really quite easy to like disassemble your life. And then you just get new stuff. There's like an unlimited amount of amazing stuff. Just get new stuff.
Let's talk about that for a second, Len. Buying things. You know, it's funny. I mean, I'm in a place in my life now, if I want to buy something, I can just go buy it. And I'm not bragging, but I could just go buy it. That is definitely not the point of this. The point is, though, I think there's another commodity, which is time, right? Now, when I buy something, I'm like, do I have the time that I can put the respect into this thing, that I can actually spend any time with this thing, right? Is it going to be additive time-wise? Len, I would imagine you've got to think about that, too, when you're buying stuff.
Is this an old joke? Is this like a backhanded old joke because I'm running out of time? And is that what you're saying?
You have so much time left, Len. I mean, look at you, for God's sake.
Well, of course, and what's interesting is now that I'm retired, before I was retired, I was like you, Joe. If I wanted something, I bought it. I don't care what it was. I remember, I remember telling you guys about one time I bought. The Kings were in the Stanley Cup Finals, and me and the Navy, I mean, we spent $3,600. We didn't even think about it. $3,600 on 2 tickets to go see the game. So, but that's now that I'm retired, those days are gone. So now I do have to watch. But I do. There are things I got to think about buying if I'm going to put the time into them, or if if I'm really serious about it. And I'll give you a good example. I bought a telescope a while back, one of those really fancy 8-inch telescopes that has you just program in where you want to where you want the star, what stars you want to see, or nebulas or whatever, and the telescope just whips around and finds it in the sky, But so cool. I didn't have the time after I got this thing. It became too much time for me to keep it up and stuff. And it was kind of a waste of money because it's now sitting in the closet just because. So, I do have to think about, do I really have the time to put in for stuff like that I'm going to buy?
I'll buy it from you, Len. Mail it to me.
Okay. But
I was about to say the same thing. we have the big telescope, but we don't have the pre-program. I'm like, ooh, this sounds good.
It's slick. But Joe, can I circle back real quick? You're talking about clutter. Sometimes the clutter, I have to worry about people who are cluttering my time, I'm trying to clear space, but then others come in and make clutter. And I can give you for a calendar, but even at the physical level, I can give you a good example. Like in my garage, I have a nice workbench all set up. I have the pegboard behind for all my tools, putting everything nice, organized place. But people come in and they'll throw things on top of my workbench. They'll take my tools off the pegboard and not put them back. And right now, if I wanted to do something on my workbench, I couldn't because everybody has used it as a storage table. And I guess that's just a metaphor for us in life as well. If we're trying to do things and we have other people coming in trying to distract us, it's like clutter from outside. And if you don't watch that, that can, no matter how organized you try to be, that can get out of control and it could sabotage yourself. So you kind of have to watch outside forces as well.
Well, it is funny you say that. I was thinking about a book recently, which has really helped me with that, with my calendar and with my time, which is called The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. Have you guys read that? 1 Minute Manager offshoot. It's very simple. Like any of the 1 Minute Manager books, it's super thin. And I can actually, I think in about 10 sentences, tell you what it's all about. A person you work with, a person in your life comes into your life, Len, and goes, Len, we have a problem. When they had a problem, right? Before they walked in that second, only they had a problem, and they walk in and say, we have a problem. And then the monkey, which is the problem, is now half around their neck and half around yours, right? And often, how does that end? When they come in your office, they're hoping that you will take the problem. And often we fall into that trap. We're like, oh, I got it. I know how to solve this. You're fine. Person walks out of your office or out of your life, and now the monkey is squarely around your neck. So whenever anybody says, we have a problem, I learned a while ago to go, what is your problem? How can I help you with your problem? Is there a way for me to assist you?
I had a sign on my office when people came in, and it was very prominent, and it said, a problem on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. Do not try to throw that on me. It's not, don't force me to try and solve your problem in an instant when, this was of your making.
I want to solve for this in just a second, but Paulette, I want to turn to, you just wrote this amazing piece in the New York Times about ChatGPT and about automation. And I think there's a lot of people think that automation and minimalism are related. They're the same thing. If I get it out of my life, but then I think it still is kind of clutter, but it's just clutter somebody else is doing. Do you think automation solves our too much stuff in our life problem, or does automation actually maybe make it worse?
What kind of automation?
I'm talking about if I'm automating anything in my life. I mean, I take something and I have this robot do it, right? I mean, essentially that's what I'm doing if I'm using ChatGPT. I'm having a robot do it. I'm truly not eliminating it from my life. I'm just making it so I can speed through this thing so I can get to the next thing.
What I wonder is what is the arms race of content that this is going to unleash, of so much crappy content out there. I think that automating is great when it is something that is going to take the decision out of your brain, like decision fatigue. Should I save money this week? No, I just have an automatic savings going, right? And I think it is really important to focus. So I think a lot of times people aren't giving the right kind of focus to things they have to do and tasks they want to complete with ChatGPT. They just like I saw one thing where a student had copied a ChatGPT paper, but he left the first paragraph, here's a 1,000-word essay on the history of blah, blah, blah. And that's what he turned into his teacher. So you still have to give care to things. But I think that ChatGPT, God, we'll see. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I mean, in your piece specifically, you're talking about the garbage, the garbage that's going to come out in that area. But I think about how much garbage, as we're talking about clutter, how much garbage we're introducing to the universe, introducing to our life, just across automation in general. We think we're simplifying. We think we're getting more enjoyment. Instead, it's making us go faster and faster and faster in the rat race. So I think in some ways, I don't know. It made me think that you got to be careful what you look for, Len.
Yeah, I was just automation is great for these binary things. When you have to do things and for example, automating your finances and you want to, automatically take money out of your paycheck and put it into your savings. I mean, nothing can go wrong. That's a yes or no. Do you want to do it? And the automation works great. But when you get into very complicated automation, like the
GPT,
stuff. GPT,
yep.
GPT, yes. That does not simplify things because it's way more complicated. You might be getting a product back, but you really don't know if it's correct, or it might not be to your liking the way the answer comes out. You might have to go back and do other things. It could have problems all to its own and cause a whole bunch of more problems. So because it's so complicated. So I don't think in the end that it's going to be quite as easy as everybody thinks, and make life. It's not going to be a panacea for this at all.
Yeah, it's funny. I truly don't think automation is the same as simplifying your life. I don't think it is. I think we mistake them for being the same thing. Elle?
And just thinking about what Paulette and Len was saying, I think the difference with simplifying versus automating is you're, first of all, asking the question, should you even have this in your life? You're automating it, which is, offloading it to this ChatGPT or some AI. But the question, first of all, if you're simplifying is, should this even be in my life right now? Should I even give any energy to crafting whatever, prompt you need to solve this or whatever automated program you need? I think the joy that you get from simplifying is asking that question, what do I really want to do with my time? Like you mentioned, that's the most valuable thing. Sometimes it almost becomes mental hoarding because you're still keeping it in a way. You're automating some of it, but it's still in the back of your mind instead of saying, you know what, I just cut it out. Like, for example, I've done the autoresponders for emails. I'm sure you guys get emails. I have a great article for your website, or I have this pitch. Just respond. You haven't responded, and I just stopped responding. The autoresponder got it, but if they keep sending it, I just don't even have the energy anymore. It automatically goes to delete, because I don't want to have that in my life. I don't even want to respond. No.
Yeah. Just let it go. Just, you don't even want the conversation. No, it's funny that you say that, because I think that when it comes to this, I'm wondering what clutter actually costs us in the back of my brain. And before we go to our trivia break, I'm going to ask all you guys that. What's clutter costing you now? But it's funny because I have a friend, Elle, who was bragging to me the other day about how whenever he finds somebody that will buy something, he finds a way to be the person that can sell that. Right. He's like, so he's making these little bits of money on all this stuff. And then but I think to myself, I feel bad for him, because it always feels like he's running for these little minimal things, where if he focused on one area, kind of like, Paulette has been doing, where she's focusing more on one area. If you do more of that, I feel like it's going to lead you further than I can do 85,000 different things. And I got this little piece of mind share in 9,000 different areas. Like I can't do all that. I felt bad. And I feel like the clutter of that is costing him a ton. But let's start with you, Elle. What do you think clutter's costing you now as you're trying to solve the clutter issue like everybody else?
I think, honestly, it really is the quality of work, or the time I put in for the projects I do have. Whether, it kind of just oddly reminded me of Cal Newport, where he talks about deep work. And of course, applies to work, but it also applies to life. It applies to parenting. My husband and I are work from home parents, which we are so grateful and fortunate. But still, we're like any, working parent, you are debating that making sure you give quality time, actual meaningful time to both your family and then your career, because I want to have both. I want to enjoy the time with my kids, and I also want to do good work with, Simplify and Enjoy, and helping other families pursue what matters to them. And so I have to make those conscious choices. And I think these last couple years with COVID, I've gotten better at saying no. As, Paulette was mentioning, sometimes you have to, even though it's not the opportunity itself being bad, it's just not the right project or opportunity for you, considering what your priorities are.
Which is funny, because I feel like for a lot of people, it was the opposite. They weren't used to working from home, so they said yes to more work because, heck, I'm at home anyway. And now there was this odd commingling of work and home that happened, and people didn't really know what to do. You know what I mean? And it made it a little bit worse. But the stakes are pretty high there. Len, how about for you? What does clutter cost you?
Well, I think you can look at it. I look at it too. Clutter is the amount of clutter that I have in my life is directly proportional to the amount of wasted time I have in my life. But on the flip side, it's inversely proportional to my productivity. So, more wasted time and lower productivity is how that's costing.
Paulette, how about for you?
I think it's this, it reminds me of when I have a bunch of tabs open and then I pull the tab out, one out, and then maximize it so I'm not looking at all the things. Like right now, my desk is a little cluttered, and it's like everything's pulling your attention in different directions, So it's really just not having any kind of visual reminder. That's why I'm not all about the Post-it notes everywhere. I don't know how people live like that. So I think it is just that attention where you just don't know what you're looking at. And I'm actually reading Getting Things Done right now, so I have to buy my little
so good
box.
You know what, Paula?
So good.
I used the Post-it notes, but I think if you have hundreds of them, obviously that's not going to help. But I do use the Post-it notes. I make sure I never have more than 2 on my computer, that I'm looking at anytime. So that's it. I just highlight the 2 biggest issues I have. But I can see if you had 100 or 20 or 30 Post-it, it totally doesn't work.
One of those has all your passwords on it, right, Len?
I actually do an index card. I don't do a Post-it note, but for my priorities, and I had to mentally force myself to say what fits on the Post-it. What fits on the index card from, home, work, and personal. And that, because it's only a limited amount of space, it's made things a lot easier for me. But yeah, the Post-it note would drive me crazy.
It's I use the trick of I'll have 19 browser tabs open so that I know to remember all those 19 things, and I'll just close the browser tab later, and that works great. And I'm shaking my head no.
Computer freezes.
While I do that.
Just like
I go into panic mode. Because I'm like, no, browser, don't go down. No, that's my whole reminder system, and not a good one. In the second half of this, they have lots of solutions in this piece to being able to cut back and actually get more. And obviously, all of our crew here has excellent solutions to things that they're working on. We're going to dive into those. But at the halfway mark of our Friday shows, we have a trivia challenge between our 3 frequent contributors, Mr. Len Penzo, Paulette Perhach, who's going to be handing it back off to Paula Pant here in a second. So Team PP. And Elle, you are playing on behalf of Team OG, who is the 2-time champion. Before that, Len was the 2-time champion. And I was just joking with Paulette on her show that before you were here makes her the 4-year in a row loser, that somehow you've been trying to erase that change. And she's had Paulette's had a much better run on trivia than Paula had. So does she go back to the same? We're about to see. Will Paulette get one more win before she hands it back to Paula? But Elle, I've got good news and bad news for you playing on Team OG. Which one do you want first?
Let's go with the bad news.
Well, the bad news is that you are in this weird spot for Team OG. You are in last place, and you're not in last place by a little. You're in last place by, by 1. Len has 7. Paulette has 6. OG has 5. So 7, 6, 5. But the good news, Elle, means you get to guess last. Paulette will guess in the middle, and Len is in this weird spot where he has to guess first. So that's where we're at. We need a trivia question. Doug, what do we got this week?
Hey there, Stackers. It's nearly that time here in this part of Arkansas. Of course, I'm talking about the Big Hope Melon Festival. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and let me tell you, I'm a real melon lover, and I heard the festivities require melon judges this year. Being the community-minded man that I am, I've nobly volunteered my experienced eyes to size up the contestants' big old juicy fruit. Speaking of growing season, 2015 was a record-breaking year in Bhutan, which must maybe just be a few miles the other side of Hope, Arkansas. Nope, should have read ahead. It's apparently a country. It sits on the edge of the Himalayas, and it's more than 75% forested. Well, in 2015, volunteers set a new Guinness World Record in the country's capital, Thimphu, that's a fun word, for planting trees in an hour. My trivia question is, how many trees were planted in Bhutan on June 2nd, 2015 to set that new world record? I'll be back right after I review the official standards and guidelines for judging melons. I don't want anyone thinking I'm playing favorites.
It is a big time of year here in Texarkana and in southwest Arkansas. I run, by the way, the Watermelon Festival race every year, Doug, and it's super hot. It's super humid. And at the end of the race, they give you a free watermelon, which is also incredibly cool.
I think they should make you carry it for the race.
Oh my God, I have enough trouble carrying me for 3 miles. That is super difficult. So let's dive in. We're talking about planting trees, Mr. Penzo. How many trees did they plant in one day in the capital of Bhutan? Bhutan?
How many people were involved? Or is that...
It does not say. It just says they set the record.
Gosh, that could be, if it was one guy or if it was 100 guys, that makes a difference. 1,000. So I have no clue. I don't know. This is just a stab because I don't know how many people are doing this. I will say.
Doug, do we have anything on the number of, I think if everybody's got the number of volunteers, I didn't see anything about the number of volunteers.
Nope. Okay.
Yeah. Doug's shaking his head no.
I'll just guess. I'll say there's 1,000 volunteers, and let's say they could do gosh, planting a tree takes some work. I guess they're little saplings, probably. Didn't say how big the trees were either, huh?
Oh, I'm sure they got to be little saplings. I can't imagine planting full-grown trees.
1,000 people planting 10 trees an hour. That's 10,000 times 8 hours. That's 80. I'll say 80,000.
It wasn't an hour, right?
It was 1 hour. That much we do know. It was the world record for planting in 1 hour.
Oh, it's in 1 hour?
It was in 1 hour. Yes, 1 hour, he did say that, and I totally missed it.
All of us are not.
I'll say 10,000.
10,000 in 1 hour. Paulette, what do you think about that? Too rich, or did they do
20,000 in my mind, so I'm going to do that.
She's going with 20 as her last guess. Elle, what you thinking?
I feel like a Price is Right moment of 1. Nope, I won't do that. How many volunteers they got? It sounds horrible. I'm imagining it's not a ton. And I have planted trees. And I'm judging, again, like if it's a bare root one. How many volunteers? I'm going to go.
Even those saplings. I've done those saplings. I've done those saplings before. It does take a little while just for one sapling.
Yeah, but if you're in the mountains, it's like North Carolina soil. You either got sand, which is so easy, or you got the clay, and you're just, it's like you need an ice pick to get through.
Like my house.
Yeah, forget it.
I have both at my house.
So 5,000.
I'll say 5,000.
So we got 5,000, 10,000, and 20,000 are our answers. Man, we're all spread out today. We would tell you who's winning this thing, but we'll do that here in just a minute. Len, you kick this off by saying 10,000. You've got one guess north of you, one guess south of you. How are you feeling?
Terrible. I have no idea. Who knows?
Paulette, it's your last guess. You feeling good?
Never.
Elle,
5,001.
Elle, you must be feeling great because it's your last guess. Elle,
I'm feeling good because OG was losing, so
who cares? The stakes are low.
That's the way I've positioned myself in life, is to just, you got nothing to lose.
low expectations.
Yes.
That's how you live it.
C's get degrees.
I wish you'd have said 100 million bajillion then, Elle. Why didn't you do that?
Just throw it
put
off.
some effort, but not all the effort. There you go.
Well, let's see who our winner is. Is OG/L getting back in the game? Is Paulette leaving on a high note? Does Len increase his lead? What's our answer, Doug?
Hey there, stackers. I'm melon hugger and seed depositor, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Someone asked me during the break, what does tree planting have to do with stacking Benjamins? Well, Earl, if there are no trees, we can't breathe. And if we can't breathe, we can't finish off that fourplex to achieve financial independence and retire early. Can we, Earl? Yeah, checkmate right there, pal. So 2015 was a big year for Bhutan. No, they didn't open an In-N-Out, but they should. They went a different route and broke the Guinness World Record when they planted a never-before-reached amount of trees in 1 hour. So how many trees did a group of volunteers plant in 60 minutes to break the world record? Well, let me just say, congratulations, Elle. Len is going to be very pleased to learn that you've kept OG in last place. You were off by over 44,000. Len, you were off by 39,000, which means Paulette, in a final last gasp, a sunset moment, she walks off as the winner. She was off by 29,672. I'll do the math for you. They planted 49,672 trees.
Dang.
It's amazing.
Hey, that's great.
It's amazing.
The entire country participated. It was a compulsory event, I think.
Compulsory. You could participate or we don't see you tomorrow. Congratulations. So Paulette, for the record, joined our crew in last place and leaves it tied for first. Nice
That
job.
is awesome. Congrats.
Look how
Leaving on a
excited
high
she
note.
is.
Feeling great. I'm very
Amazing.
excited. I have very little to live for, and this is extremely important to me.
Wow.
This is it.
That got
I
dark
get the feeling, Paulette, that this trivia was just clutter in your life. Just a little bit of clutter in your life. Hey, let's go to the second half of our discussion, speaking of clutter. And on today's show is brought to you by depositaccounts.com. Elle, you know what happens when you go to depositaccounts.com?
No idea. Please tell me.
Oh, it's amazing. You find out that the sister site of Magnify Money has all of the savings account rates, checking account rates, online money market account rates, CD rates, all ranked against each other. And when you go there, you'll find that maybe that brick and mortar bank you've been banking at, not that great. Head to depositaccounts.com for more. All right, let's dive into this. Streamlining your life, a woman in this piece says, is easier than you think. Oh, you think that's true? And if so, where do you start? Or if you don't think that's true, where do you start anyway?
It is true. And I don't know if others had the same experience, but for me, it was just this blow up of there's too much stuff and it's annoying me, and really like literally bags to Goodwill and dumping it and freeing up some time.
Did you just start though with the stuff that annoyed you? Is that where you just began?
You know, like I said, we moved. That stuff didn't go from the basement to upstairs. It literally stayed in the basement. I realized we didn't need it. And then I took it to Goodwill in bags and boxes from when we moved from the other house. And I felt so good and so happy just getting rid of it and not having to worry about that. That was like less things to worry about.
Do you use a Marie Kondo spark joy approach?
I think now I'm more intentional with bringing stuff into my life. So a reverse. So before I buy, I'm asking myself, is it something that like, I'm going to enjoy for either it's a great once in a lifetime experience, or is this one of those that I'm really going to enjoy? Like when we got the telescope during the pandemic, that was something that we had a great time in the backyard with the kids. We were seeing, Mars, Saturn. So it was a big purchase, but it was a purchase that was worth it versus, these one-off small purchases that didn't really move the needle in terms of making us happy.
Len, where do you start when you get into declutter mode? And do you think it is streamlining your life is easier than you think?
Well, I think streamlining your life is very easy. You just got to get down, make a list of what's important to you, right? So the first thing you got to do is say, hey, what's important? And then what are you doing to meet those goals? And anything else at that very top level is, you can ignore it, and then you can work from there. So I think it's just a matter of getting in touch with your inner self first and seeing what's important versus what's not.
So you start with a list. Paulette, it seems like whenever we talk, you are working on some aspect of decluttering, clarifying, cleaning up, getting clarity on what you're working on. Where are you at right now with that? And do you think it's streamlining is easier than people like you and I make it sometimes?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's really, really hard for me to only want to do a few things, or to know like how many things your brain can handle and how many things you can do your best at. But yeah, I quit 3 different projects I was doing. So I was pretty proud of myself for that in the service of the ones that were left. It's kind of like weeding a garden where it's like, you don't want to pick out any of the plants, but like in order for the few plants to thrive, you have to do it. So, I know I want to be an artist and a writer who helps writers, and trying to just focus on the things that align with that.
But it's funny, you're kind of in the middle there. I mean, with Elle, it started with possessions, right? It began with these possessions are annoying me. We're not using them. We don't have the time for them. Let's get rid of that clutter. With Len, it's about mindset. For you, is it more possessions or is it more mindset that you focus on by streamlining?
I am always trying to get stuff out of my apartment. And yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I think that they're, you can't divide them. They are the same thing. Like you're not going to get rid of your possessions unless you have a different mindset about your possessions. The mindset is the root of the issue.
There was a woman here, Elle, who said that she cut vices. She went through the vices in her life that she didn't like. So she didn't like how much she would just do, mindless drinking, where she'd just, crack open a bottle of wine and have a drink. Or she would go to a restaurant and, just on a random Tuesday, and it wasn't a special event. She said she found ancillary benefits. Has that kind of thing happen to you? Do you start from what don't I like, or do you start with the more positive approach of what do I want more of?
Just thinking about it, I think part of it is an intentionality and awareness. First of all, that you do recognize, this is not something I really enjoy, or it's a vice. For some people, they don't even think about that. They don't even label how they spend their time or money on those things. So I would say the first step is just kind of doing an inventory, like no judgment, kind of looking at how am I spending my time? How am I spending my money? And is there a joy from it, or what do I get out of it? And I think that's the big question. What do I get out of this? Is it meaningful? Is it a fantastic experience I'm never going to regret? Or is it something I'm actually doing because I'm stressed out about these other situations? And I'm afraid to bring it up because it's so cliche, but I think people, when they look at getting the coffee or getting these small little things with spending, I think the bigger question is, are we spending money because we're unhappy with something else in our life? Like, it's a pressure valve for, what's going on in my life. I hate my job. It sucks. I need this 15 minutes. Getting the coffee to physically be out there. Am I going out for drinks after work because I hate my job? And I just need to palate cleanse with a glass of Cabernet with friends. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the difference between, for me, minimizing or minimalism versus simplifying and kind of defining those things that matter to you. Well, and that gets back, Len, to you. And the root of the issue is, are you actually spending your free time on things that you enjoy? What does your ideal look like, and making that list, right? And that's actually tip number 1 that Success Magazine has in this piece that's on our show notes page. People would like to look at it. But step 2 on here says, watch your bank and credit card statements. That's partly how people find flaws. They go back and go, what am I actually spending on? What I think I have. Have you done that before? As you're simplifying, Len, you and the honeybee go back through the credit card and go, okay, where's the leakage? Or maybe not even the leakage. Oh,
but don't say that word. Please don't say leakage.
Maybe where's the
for a commercial break?
No. How about where can streamlining happen?
Thank you.
Well, Len's like, speaking of streaming.
Yeah, you mean with respect to looking at your finances?
Yes, absolutely. Watch your bank and credit card statements they had here. Have you done that?
Yeah, to
streamline.
We do that every month. I mean, we're checking. We look at our credit card bill and where that money's going to. I mean, that obviously. I mean, that's going to tell you if you're buying things that may be in excess, or things that did you really need, or you're overspending your budget. I mean, that to me, that's just an automatic. So I will say that when it comes to, well, if you don't mind, Joe, if I can cut in for just a minute, what Len was saying. I was on a roll. Hold on, Elle. I was on a roll. No. All right, no, you go ahead. No, go ahead. Do you want to? Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
What is happening?
I think just setting that time, especially I write about families, money, couples, and, marriage and money. Just having those conversations, I think, opens up so many different things.
Yeah.
With one, what's a priority? And then also, I think we should mention too, if you're part of a family, everyone's going to have different definitions of that. And so I think also, if we're going to be talking about simplifying, yes, you can simplify some of the stuff in your house, but you also have to respect that the other person is going to have different opinions. And
I do find that all the time, Elle.
It keeps happening for me.
No, Cheryl wants to simplify my stuff, and I want to simplify hers.
My stuff's not annoying. Your stuff is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, hey, yeah.
That's a different episode.
That is a different episode. It says here, Paulette, keep a daily log. And I do know this. I know that knowledge is power, and stats, having stats, this is a part of automation that I actually like. This diet and fitness coach that I have, Jesse, told me, you know what? I need a smartwatch so that I can just look at my steps every day. And it is amazing what that has done with my fitness level. It tracks my sleeping. And because I have it right on my wrist, I look at it every day. And because of that, I go into time to go to bed and I start thinking about, all right, let's make sure that I'm going to sleep good so my score's good tomorrow. Like, it's ridiculous. But it truly works. Do you keep any type of daily log? Do you track any stats to try to help you simplify and enjoy?
Around simplifying? No, I don't. Yeah.
Like how much time you're spending, like they say, how much time do you spend on these things that you don't really care about that much?
Yeah, I do. I actually just hired someone who's going to be doing like a bunch of time tracking for me and getting really serious about like showing me how I spend my time. So I think that will be really important to see like which of the projects I'm spending my most time on.
I've got just a couple. If you want to go to a smaller place, they recommend these. Consider how much of your current home you actually use. If I went closer to that size, I found when we were looking for this house, it's so functional for us compared to houses we've had in the past. I don't know if Elle, when you made your recent move, were you guys looking at that usable space?
Yeah, I mean, it made a big difference. So the last place we have was a new build. It was a 3-story townhome, which on paper, it was a good size, but there was so much unused space. And it really wasn't helpful for us. At that time, I was the only one working from home. But when we were looking for places here, we were preferring to have a basement to have a separate place for a home office. And I think that made a huge difference, especially during COVID when everybody was home. School, work, living was all in one place, that we could at least physically like be in different spaces. Yeah. And so the size worked. But even now that we're both working from home full time, it's good. It's good. It's a good fit. And it's not that much bigger than a townhouse, but it's better utilized space.
We've mentioned 2 good books today, The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey, and David Allen's Getting Things Done. A third one, if you're interested in usable space, a phenomenal book, is called The Not So Big House. And it is just a fantastic book on usable space. And by the way, Paulette, you were talking about looking at tiny houses. This whole book has the most beautiful pictures. It is architecture porn. It completely is. Like, the way they use space in this book is amazing. And I highly recommend people go to the library and look for that one. It also says, if you want to kill clutter, let's go through one of these. Be honest, will you ever use that olive pitter? Do you notice that vase anymore, or is it just something to dust? Elle, you're laughing. You must have some of these in your life.
Okay, I hate to say this, but this is where I get gifts from family members, and I know they mean well, but they get these like very specific kitchen items that are just, it takes up space. My husband and I, we love to cook, but we would use this maybe at best once a year. And so we've quietly regifted or...
Oh, yeah.
You just described our Instant Pot.
Your Instant Pot, really?
Yeah. That was the fad. Everybody had to have an Instant Pot.
They're amazing.
And they're so complicated to use. No, Paulette, you use yours all the time? That fit in your RAV4?
Yeah.
No,
they're amazing.
I'm old school. I still have my crock pot. I'll get an Instant Pot once this breaks.
I say my son uses his Instant Pot all the time as well.
You can have mine.
The thing I think about, Elle, when I think about this is Cheryl and I got it was a really cool thing at the time. A friend had one, so we went and bought it. It was a Margaritaville margarita maker. And it is so awesome. And it makes like the best perfectly proportioned margaritas. Everything's on the side. In fact, we got these cool margarita glasses that look like cactuses. They're just awesome. I think we've used it once. And every time I see it, I go, oh yeah, we got to get that out and use it. And then 5 years go by and we still haven't. I seriously need to get rid of that thing. Unclutter one room or closet at a time. I really like that. I want to ask about this. Share more. Get into sharing instead of buying. Have any of you guys done the sharing stuff? But Elle, you've done that as well. Yeah.
I'm a big share.
What do you do? Yeah. Are you in one of these online communities?
I know the Buy Nothing group, but actually just like friends and family, if we have like yard projects, we'll ask around first. It's kind of this informal network that's been super helpful instead of buying yard equipment that we might need like once every 2 years. We can just borrow it. And then, of course, with kids, gosh, my oldest is 11 right now. She goes through clothes like water. Yeah. So it's great. We're kind of in this little chain. So I know I'm going to get some of the clothes from some friends and it passed down to some other friends. And it's good. It kind of offsets and reduces some of the costs. And I also like that it's better for the environment. And those clothes that tend to last from a kid to a kid are better made clothes than sometimes when I go to the store and, not calling out Target or Walmart, but sometimes I just bought it and a week later it has holes in it.
For people that are holding back on this or wondering, what the effect's going to be, I totally agree. After we sold all of our stuff to this line, one person in this piece said, after my stuff was gone, I was like, oh my God, I'm free. And I was surprised by how much I felt that. Oh my God. And what's wild is that now that I have a house again and I bought a bunch of crap again, I feel much less free than I did that day. I'm like, I want to go back to that guy.
I'll say one of the biggest things that if they wanted an easy way to declutter, and at least here in Southern California, I notice, and my neighbors especially, treat your garage like a garage and store your cars in it.
Oh, what are you talking about?
I don't know how many people, one of the most expensive things that they buy, they leave it outside in their driveway through all the seasons and all the, weather beaten that it gets. And your garage is loaded to the ceiling with crap. Treat your garage like what it's meant for, and I think you will, have a lot less clutter.
Len, to that point, I also saw a piece from the Minimalists recently talking about if you're thinking about getting organized, and that includes storage bins, like you are organizing. You're organized. Putting more stuff in storage bins is not the answer to your question. The answer to your question is, how should it leave my house? Like that's the big aha. I think a great way to leave this is a piece, Doug, that you just reminded us of. Let's say goodbye with this clip from a guy who you might have heard of before, named how do you pronounce this guy's last name? Seinfeld?
All things on earth only exist in different stages of becoming garbage. Okay, your home is a garbage processing center where you buy new things, bring them into your house, and slowly crapify them over time. Okay? This is your life. Oh, you're all excited when you get something, right? You bring it in, you open it on the kitchen table, the place of honor for the new arrival. You read the instructions, fill out the registration card. You may even join the club of other idiots that have this thing. And then some time goes by, and it slowly begins to dawn on you that maybe you're not going to be quite as keen on drying out fruit and storing it in your basement as you thought. So what do? You have to demote it. Objects start at the highest level, visible in a living area. From there, it goes down to a closet, cupboard, or drawer. That's why we have those, so we don't have to see all of the huge mistakes we have made.
And it goes downhill from there. We will place that with the show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. It doesn't get any better when you clutter up your life. Let's find out what beautiful non-cluttery stuff you have going on where you are. We'll have our guest of honor go last. Mr. Penzo, what do you got going on at lenpenzo.com that can help us simplify a little bit?
I've doing a big favor for everybody now. Memorial Day's past us, and that means it's the summer driving season and people going on vacations and, long places. So I've got a very informative article on 9 ways to ensure that your next road trip sucks. So come on by, and if you want to do it the wrong way, follow this article step by step.
Oh, that is fantastic. Who hasn't had a sucky road trip before? Paulette Perhach, thank you so much for the last, 10 months.
Thank you so much.
Of hanging out with us here on air. Absolutely. And all the time writing with us. We had so many laughs behind the scenes. People have no idea what goes in behind the scenes to writing these episodes. And we laughed our head off. But what projects are you working on now?
So I am putting together a 1-hour webinar, taped webinar about how writers can use ChatGPT to earn more. And stay in the freelance writing game.
I thought you were going to say by tossing it in the trash.
Nope, it's a terrible editor, but it does a lot for ideation and customizing it to the publication you want to send it to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Elle, thank you so much for coming back. It's so good. It always feels like too long.
It's always awesome to be here, have some laughs, and have some fun.
What is going on at Simplify and Enjoy?
Well, we actually just finished an episode about family vacations and having fun
and how to make
actually
them suck.
Relaxing.
No,
how to suck. No, I'm not going to spend good money on that. How to relax. I actually spent more. We spent a little bit more, not too much, on Amtrak. We went down to Florida from Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was so good. We went to sleep on the train and we woke up and we were in Orlando, and then we could just go and get started with our vacation. But this month we are talking about buying houses, and kind of fits in with the whole Simplify. One of the things we're discussing is don't buy as much house as you can afford. You get a lot of bad home buying advice and you're getting pushed into this. Just break the cycle before you even move in. Find the house that is just the right fit for you and your budget.
We had two houses we were choosing between, this one and one that was bigger. It was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful house, and I'm so glad we didn't buy it. It would have been an albatross around our neck, and I'm so thankful. And you will find Simplify and Enjoy wherever you're listening to us today. Just hit pause right now, go follow or subscribe to Simplify and Enjoy, and then come back and finish it up. Speaking of finish it up, we had a lot of great takeaways today. Man, big day for us today. Paulette's last day. Len is still kicking, and Elle is
just barely clinging to life.
And Elle Martinez here again. Doug, what's our takeaway today?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from our panel and make financial decisions based on your budget instead of how companies want you to spend your money. Second, take it from Paulette. Once you have enough stuff to fill up your RAV4, do you really need any more shit? But the big lesson? Hands off the melons, judges. A great judge can tell when they're right from a mile away. What? People think, what? Why would they think I mean that? Oh, ears out of the gutter, people. Come on. Oh, we're gonna miss Paulette. Thanks for the memories and the fart jokes. You'll now find Paulette Perhach at thatwriterpaulette.com. Thanks also to our special guest, Elle Martinez, for joining us. You'll find Elle's podcast, Simplify and Enjoy, wherever you're listening to us right now. And thanks to Len Penzo for joining us today. You can find Len at lenpenzo.com/telescope for sale. You know, Joe, this part of the credits is so important to me, I had to go put on my favorite shirt. Let's do this. This show is the property of SP Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2023, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. This show was written by Joe Saul-Sehy with help from me, Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast, and Lacey Langford from the Military Money Show. Kevin Bailey helps us take a deeper dive into all the topics covered on each episode in our newsletter called The 201. You'll find the 411 on all things money at the 201. Just go to stackingbenjamins.com/201. Tina Eichenberg makes the video version of this show. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Mom's friend Gertrude and Kate Yunkin are our social media coordinators, and Gertrude is the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So say hello when you see us posting online. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. Not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
There is some clutter that I think is, I don't know, might be bad in the big scheme of things, but you're attached to it for these, almost like when I was a kid, you had the blankie. A lot of kids have their blankie or their binky, one or the other, maybe both, where when that thing goes away, maybe it was a teddy bear. Maybe there had to be something in your life where you were upset. I remember I grew up Catholic, and I would come back from Sunday. I came back from Sunday school one time with two things in my little backpack. I came home with this picture of like the Easter bunny, and I totally didn't even draw inside the lines. Like, I remember even doing it. I didn't give a shit. I just didn't. And I just kind of scribbled. I get it done. And then I made this thing, which is how the Easter Bunny has these elves, and they had like the Easter Bunny's tree headquarters, and like these birds would make the eggs, and they would go down this conveyor belt, and there were all these little elves inside the tree. Like, think about the Keebler elves kind of thing. The people you guys are already looking at me like, Joe, what drugs were you on when you were 7?
Yeah.
What? And so they would get the eggs ready, and they would come out on this conveyor belt. And I had to like tape like 3 pieces of paper together to have this whole big thing. I was so damn proud of that. And a couple days later, I'm walking out, to check out whatever's going on in the kitchen. And here's a picture of that stupid ass Easter bunny that I didn't care about on the front. And I'm like, oh, Mom, this isn't a big deal. What about the conveyor belt? She's like, what conveyor belt are you talking about? I'm like, no, I had this conveyor belt. She goes, oh, just the mess of like tape and paper and whatever. I threw that away. What are you talking about? I like spent the whole hour we were working on this on my Easter bunny conveyor belt. I'm 55 years old, and every time I see Mom at Easter time, I'm like, Mom, hey, remember the conveyor belt, Mom?
I'm just picturing Hieronymus Bosch's like Garden of Earthly Delights from Joe's head.
It was amazing. It was like it showed, Len, you would have been proud. It was like engineering genius. Paulette would have been like, the creativity in that thing is amazing. You could see the brilliance already. The wow. And Elle would have said simple and effective. It would have been great. All 3 of you would have been like crying tears of joy, but it's gone. It's gone. Of course, in my mind, it was a Picasso, but I was 7. It was my mom probably looked at it and the tape was sticking to the back of it and it was all crumpled up. I don't know. Anyway, you guys had to have it. Paulette, I'm sure there's been a thing where you're like, why is that not in my life anymore?
I'm literally racking my brain and I can't remember.
That's good. Then that's good.
I know. I'm going to think of it though. I'm like,
no,
oh, yeah, that.
Well,
yeah, you know what? I wish I had brought more books. I took all of my books to a used bookstore and I said, just take whatever you want. Cause I knew they were going to take everything. And I just took everything I didn't take. And then when I was driving home, I was like, I could have fit more books. So probably that.
Is there one book though? Is there a specific book though?
There was one that like, there were a few signed ones and one where my friend signed it and said, she was like, Paulette, write fiction. Cause I told her, I'm like, I'm working on my own book. She's like, write fiction. So that's what I think about.
It's gone.
Not that big of a deal though.
Oh, no, sounds like my Easter Bunny one's way more like therapist material than your. Maybe it was a book. Elle, how about you?
I'm kind of stuck like Paulette was. Can I flip it? Can I like talk about something I hoarded that I'm actually still okay with? It was recently proved right. Can I do that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, let's do it. It was a margarita maker, wasn't it? It was a margarita maker with glasses that look like cactuses.
No. And I homebrew, so I do meads and beards. But for me, remember I mentioned the DVDs? I feel like so brilliant since so many of these streaming channels are like cutting back on programs that I still have like 7 seasons of all these TV shows and movies. And I think on Fridays we watch movies as a family, and it was, I think of my husband's turn, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's what it was. We couldn't find it in streaming anywhere.
And you just took the DVD out.
I was like, I know I have that. I went downstairs because that's one of my favorites, and I just pulled it out and I said, look at this. And I said, we can watch the bonus stuff, which they don't have with the streaming services. You know, the behind the scenes stuff they always had to do with the DVD. So that was a moment where, yeah, I was proud I had my clutter.
You ever put yourself like in the, you know, I sometimes make up like the brain of the DVD. Like the DVD is in the basement in the dark, sitting there 365 days a year for like 8.5 years. Except, you know, a few times a year, the light comes on. Maybe you go to the same row. Maybe it knows you look at it. It's like, look, maybe, huh? It's that. No. And then the next time it does it again. You guys again looking at me like, what drugs is he on at 55 that he's doing that? Anyway, Len, save us.
You know,
you must have one.
I want to go back. I don't have a lot of clutter at all, but I do have one thing, and I want to go back to my dear Aunt Millie, because her house, her little tiny house, you know, when she passed away, I did want to keep, I managed to keep her the welcome mat for her from her little tiny home. And her home was so tiny that the mat only said well. That shows you how small. Front door. Hello? Is this thing on?